Hello, my name is Hannah Lawrence, and today I will be giving an oral presentation about the meaning of psychology, the goals of psychology, and the major branches within. We are going to start by talking about what psychology is. Psychology is the study of mind and behavior, how mind and behavior work together, and it is an applied science including the conscious and subconscious minds. Mind and behavior are two very complex topics to try to wrap your head around, but that's what we're going to attempt to do today. This applied science is based on years of experimentation and research. Psychology is useful because you can apply it to every profession across the board. The goals of psychology are to describe, explain, and predict. So if you're studying to become a psychologist, you're studying to be a social scientist or a cognitive behavioral scientist. These terms can be used interchangeably. The job requires listening to behaviors and symptoms and linking it to a specific set of facts. This specific set of facts is called a diagnosis. Now we're going to talk about a major pioneer of psychology, and his name is William James. He was the first American philosopher and psychologist to offer a psychology course in the United States. William James wasn't convinced that psychology was an actual science, which is ironic because he became the first professor of psychology. He introduced the theory of emotion, which states that emotion arises from change in the mind due to events happening around you. William James opened the first laboratory that was meant for experimentation in psychological affairs. William James is the man who opened the door for psychological experiments and the idea that psychology is not the same as philosophy. And now that a little background has been given about what psychology is and how it got its start, we can start to talk about the major branches of psychology. The first one we're going to talk about today is psychopathology. As indicated, this major branch of psychology deals with the pathologies that are associated with the psychological aspect of the brain. The word pathology itself means the origin of a disease and the course it will be taking. This can include mental illnesses such as depression, anxiety, obsessive-compulsive disorder, bipolar disorder, and many other personality disorders. The next branch that we're going to talk about is called behavioral psychology. This branch of psychology is built upon the belief that all behaviors are learned and not born with. This is called conditioning. For example, as a child, you most likely would not have become afraid of spiders if your mom hadn't jumped and shrieked the moment that she saw one. You were conditioned to think that spiders are scary. Behavioral psychology can be therapy-based. If you are depressed, you can condition yourself to think more positive thoughts and not let the negative thoughts take over your life. Next, we are going to talk about biopsychology. This is also known as behavioral neuroscience. This is an extremely popular branch. This is the study of how the brain influences your overall personality. The neurons in your brain and how they affect your day-to-day self or personality are studied in this area of psychology. If your neurons aren't firing correctly or are misfiring, this could result in a major mental illness such as depression and can even result in suicide. Cognitive psychology is similar to biopsychology because it has to do with functions of the brain and how we think. This branch has to do with abstract subjects such as thinking, problem solving, decision making, and motivation. This branch of psychology is difficult to understand because there's no concrete evidence being presented. It's all ideologies. Another complex branch of psychology is developmental psychology. This has to do with the different stages of human development. For example, should that child be talking by now? Does this child have the appropriate reflexes that he or she should currently have for their age group? Developmental psychology pertains to someone's life from the time of conception to death. This also has to do with why or how people's minds change over time, including psychological, social, intellectual, emotional, and overall personality development. Now we can move on to the final branch, and one of the most important branches of psychology, in my opinion, educational psychology. Educational psychology has been started to be mandatory in some universities in order for someone to get their degree in teaching. This branch has to do with coming up with plans for teachers to better communicate with their students, teach them more effectively, and better cater to their needs so that the students are able to perform better in school. Today, we have talked about what psychology is, one of the major pioneers of psychology, and several branches of psychology. Although many different branches of psychology exist, a few are just listed for you. If you're interested in doing more research in psychology, you need to make sure that you're reading a credible source and not one that somebody has fabricated. Thank you.